welcome to this webinar stroke podcast on how to support your employees through the cost of living crisis. I was fortunate enough last week to hold our first face-to-face seminar since March 2020. We held a seminar with some local businesses in Fife, which was really well received. It was great to have some clients and businesses back in a room together. As I say, it's the first time we've done a face-to-face event like that since March 2020, when we actually spoke about the Good Work Plan. Little did we know that about 3 weeks later we'd be in a lockdown situation, and since then it's just not really been feasible to get clients kind of face-to-face. So what we did last week was run the seminar on how to support your employees through the cost of living crisis. And the reason we picked that topic was we're actually being asked quite a lot of questions from existing clients at the moment around what could they be doing to better support their employees, what are other employers doing, and it's something that is genuinely kind of concerning employers. And obviously coupled with that, they're obviously feeling the pinch a little bit at the moment with, rising salary costs, rising energy costs. So, employers are obviously kind of struggling a little bit as well. So, it is something that is a concern for businesses. And obviously what they're trying to do is look at how best they can support their employees as well. What I covered last week is that, there isn't any kind of silver bullet, so what might work well for one business might not work for another. So what I wanted to do was just kind of spend this session just to kind of share some good practice around what we've seen other businesses doing, what we're doing in our own team at the HR booth, and obviously just kind of give some context around, why it is kind of such a problem at the minute. So yeah, we'll get started, and obviously this will be made available for anybody that's interested in this particular subject. So, the cost of living crisis is something that's been mentioned quite a bit this year. I think with the energy cap being kind of changed earlier in the year, rising costs, has been something that's been talked about since April. And I think, fortunately, it's not really affected too many people over that period of time. I think obviously we're moving into kind of warmer weather, for example, so energy costs really haven't taken such a big hit. But obviously what we have seen during the last few months is rising food costs, rising kind of petrol and diesel, etc. Mortgages have recently kind of gone up, rents have increased, and the rate of inflation's been above 10%. So we're kind of living through really difficult times at the moment, and it's something that a lot of us haven't kind of faced. I think it's the rising costs or something that are up record highs over the last kind of 40 years. So that gives a bit of background in terms of why we're having these conversations and where we're at. And then just to give some background as well, just around how it affects employees and people in your workplace. So the CIPD, which is the Chartered Institute of Personal Development, which is the HR professional body, through research that they have done, they have indicated that 1 in 4 employees have stated that a financial worry can impact on their ability to do their job. 3 in 4 adults said in June that they would change their habits to cope with the cost of living increases. And 13% of UK workers are in poverty. So that's 13% of people that are employed that are in poverty. So that doesn't include people who don't work. So that's quite a scary statistic that 13% of people that actually work are still in poverty. More likely to be absent or distracted at work, which has an impact on the business. So people that have got financial worries, that is going to have an impact on the workplace. Other kind of forums that have done some research, has indicated that a proactive approach can impact positively on people on the workplace and their well-being, and that employees are looking for employers to be more proactive. And on the day that I actually did the seminar last week, the Office of National Statistics had said that 30 of the cheapest food products have also increased. So that was covering things like kind of bread and pasta. So even people who have kind of changed their shopping habits, what they are still finding is that food product, etc., is still increasing in cost. The national living wage, or the real living wage, as it is kind of known as, so the UK living wage, which is not a legal requirement, but that is something that is measured every year to basically assess the true cost that people, need to live. So, that's now pitched at £10.90 per hour, and if you live in London, that is £11.95. At the moment, the national living wage, or the national minimum wage, is £9.50 per hour, and that applies for anybody who is 23 or over. And as you know, there is a sliding scale for anybody who is under 23, and at the bottom, kind of pay scale on that, it's £4.81 if someone is 16 and 17 years old or happen to be an apprentice. So obviously there's a big difference between that lower level rate and obviously the what's classed as the UK living wage. There's a big push on employers, so certainly across the UK, if you're looking to tender for any government type contracts, whether that happens to be Scottish Government or UK Government, one of the questions that you're kind of asked on that is, are you a living wage employer, or are you intending to become a living wage employer? So, people, tendering for these types of projects, it's certainly something that you're going to have to consider, and certainly for other things like kind of grants and things like that are made available for businesses, you need to kind of demonstrate that you're on that pathway. So that is what's classed as the kind of real living wage for people. So you can be accredited through the Living Wage Foundation, or you don't have to be, but if you're looking to kind of pay a fair wage, then what you should be looking to do is be paying certainly £10.90 as a minimum. Just some stats to be aware of as well, which we obtained from the Money charity. And it was just kind of showing the kind of levels of debt that kind of people are in. So the UK as a whole owed over £1.8 billion as of the end of July. That's up significantly in kind of previous year. And obviously just looking at some stats around people that are declared insolvent, quite a high kind of figure there as well, as you can see across England, Wales and Scotland. So money worries, and the impact that has is certainly having a big impact on people, households, and obviously you potentially your employees. This slide here just gives an indication in terms of some of the kind of main cities across the UK, and just looking at the average cost per rental, the average kind of monthly home or take-home pay that people have, and then the percentage of wages kind of spent on rent. So you can kind of see that varies across the country, but just gives you an indication in terms of what people are spending just on kind of rent and mortgage type costs. What you then obviously need to factor in there is things like rising energy costs, there might be kind of travel expenses, council tax, various things like that. So a big proportion of wages are now being taken up through household bills that just people need. So it's not even disposable income as such, as these are necessities. So it's not even things like kind of luxury items and things. These are people people really need. So I suppose one of the questions we covered at the seminar was, so why should an employer do anything around this? So what is that an employer's responsibility, and what's the impact if you do nothing? So I suppose the big impact at the minute is that people are moving jobs. We've seen over the last kind of 12 or 18 months that it's a really difficult marketplace for employers in terms of trying to attract and retain talent. And the average cost to replace someone who leaves your business is around 6 to 9 months of their salary. Obviously, that will, there'll be different factors around that, depending on your sector, your industry, and what you do. But what we're trying to get across in the seminar was that if you do nothing and you lose a couple of key members of staff, then it could potentially cost you 6 to 9 months of their salary to replace them. And how we kind of look at the cost of replacing an employee, just through various kind of research that's been carried out over the years. But I'll cover things like recruitment costs. So that will be the direct cost of hiring a new employee. So that might include your advertising costs. It might include management time to interview, screen and hire. You might be using a recruitment agency for that. So typically a recruitment agency might be kind of working on a rate of between 15 and 25% of the salary. So you need to kind of cover that as part of that cost. You also have onboarding costs, which is essentially when a new person joins a team, you have their induction, the onboarding, the training, the management time around that. There might be specific training they have to do. There'll be systems, equipment, etc. So all of that is kind of covered as a cost. And then what you've also got is kind of lost productivity. So, if you've lost a key member of staff, then someone else coming in, it could take them a year to even 2 years to be as productive as the person who left. So that is an indirect cost to your business. One of the things that we also see, especially with kind of a lot of SME businesses, is the impact on morale to other colleagues. So if a business is losing some staff, what tends to happen is other members of staff have built up kind of relationships and friendships with these individuals. They might kind of lose a little bit of productivity as well, because it can impact on morale. And then the knock-on effect of that as well might be that they then look for another job. So there can be a bit of a kind of domino effect there as well. And new employees obviously take longer to complete work than what longer serving staff have done. So there might be kind of customer service errors and different things like that have an impact on your business. Training costs, and then obviously just a loss of kind of knowledge in the business. So that's things that you need to kind of think about. And as I mentioned as well, how it impacts on morale. There could be a kind of impact on culture as well. So if they see people leaving, others might kind of take time to ask why, and it might actually, generate a thing with them that they might actually start to look for another job as well. So these are some of the things that you need to be aware of if you lose a member of staff. So I suppose in the current climate, kind of doing nothing to manage the cost of living crisis isn't really going to be an option for employers. So some of the things that you can do to support your people, some of the things that we've been discussing with clients recently is just raising awareness in the organisation around financial well-being and creating a kind of culture where people can have open conversations on how they're feeling. So creating a good culture is something that's essential anyway, and obviously that involves coming from the top, but obviously making sure that your line managers are trained, that they can have meaningful and open conversations with the team, creating a culture of trust where the team members do feel confident that they can approach a manager and have these types of open conversations. So kind of raising awareness in the organisation around financial well-being is definitely a kind of starting point. Now, one of the things that we get asked quite a bit is it the employer's responsibility to help people with the cost of living? It's probably not, but what you can be is certainly a vehicle to kind of help them. So, you want to look after people's welfare. You want to make sure that their well-being is kind of looked after. Your team members spend a lot of time at work. So what you need to be doing is kind of making sure that they are looked after and just providing that vehicle to try and help them and make sure that they're looked after. I've already kind of shared details on, the real living wage and staff turnover costs. So what you should be looking to do as an employer is just assess whether you are kind of paying a fair wage, and is there a possibility that could be increased. So, just review what you're currently kind of paying your team members. One of the things that we speak quite a lot about with clients is just how to kind of signpost people to, different places. So, we've actually helped quite a few clients this year introduce an employee assistance programme. It's something that we've done ourselves at the HR booth, and what that allows us to do is basically provide our team members with a 24-hour helpline number. That covers a whole range of things. So there could be some financial advice there, some debt advice, legal advice, but also kind of provides a lot of advice and counselling around, bereavement, difficulties with families, and just various things that could be causing an issue for your staff members. So having an employee assistance programme is definitely a positive step in your business. Or there's various kind of third parties that you could kind of signpost people to. So we'll cover some of that kind of later on in the webinar and kind of podcast, and we'll certainly put a link to some third parties that you can kind of reach out to. So that might be kind of charities or other organisations that can kind of help. Other things that employers can do is look at things like kind of salary sacrifice or salary exchange, as it's kind of now known as. So I think there is certainly a bit of a perception with SME businesses that a salary exchange scheme is something that only the bigger employers can kind of offer. And that's not the case, So we know that many SME businesses are starting to look at kind of salary exchange. Historically, it's kind of been used for things like kind of pension scheme or childcare vouchers. And as I said, a lot of bigger employers tend to kind of use it, but SME businesses are now, looking to look at salary exchange or salary sacrifice, and that's where some of the salary can be exchanged for employee benefit. So that might be things like pensions that I've touched on, or childcare vouchers. But other things that you can now be doing is looking at things like cycle to work schemes. So that could be an individual who is looking to perhaps buy a bike for work purposes, but there's also a bit of a loophole where people can actually buy bikes for family members, and that includes the accessories. So that could be things that you're kind of covering with your staff members. So people might be looking at buying things like this for Christmas for family members, etc. So this could actually be done through a salary exchange, where they actually make a saving on the tax and NI, as do the employer. So it's a kind of win-win. And there's obviously different things that have now been opened up around different kind of tech gadgets. So that might be a kind of laptop or PCs, etc. So it's definitely something worth kind of looking into. And as I said, we've kind of successfully helped some of our clients do that this year as well. The only thing to bear in mind with salary exchange is that people cannot drop below the national minimum wage. So if you are just kind of paying just above that, then a salary exchange or salary sacrifice won't be possible, because what you can't do with a salary exchange is drop them below the national minimum wage. So as I touched on earlier, there's different kind of pay rates for that. So if you're paying just above it, then that might not be something that's viable for these people. But if you've got other kind of higher earners or are paying well above that, then salary exchange is definitely worth looking into. Other things that you can be doing is looking at regular pay reviews, or doing a bit of benchmarking. So you could be looking at what some of your competition are perhaps paying. You can do that, through yourselves. You can look up various kind of job boards. You can capture feedback from people when they leave the business around what salary, is their new employer going to be paying, etc. So just have a look at that, just to kind of remain competitive. We know that a lot of SME businesses don't have a kind of formal pay review, so it might not be something that you do on an annual basis. A lot of businesses do tend to kind of pay any increases on merit or on the completion of training or objectives, etc. So all of that is fine, but just have a look at what you're perhaps paying, just to make sure that you still are being competitive. Because I guess with the current climate, certainly recruitment challenges, we have seen kind of recruitment costs go up or salaries go up, and we know from feedback from some clients is that they're paying good money, but people are coming in and don't have the skill sets that they're kind of looking for. So as a little bit of a kind of candidates market at the moment. But yeah, just be aware of that, and make sure you are carrying out kind of regular peer reviews and doing some benchmarking on that. Other things that you could be looking to do is look at your employee benefits. So that might be things like the company pension scheme. Is that attractive? Could you be looking at a staff discount scheme? So that's where people can actually gain access to discounts on everyday kind of items. So that might be their food shopping. It might be shopping for Christmas gifts, for example. They might be looking at restaurants, cinema days, things that are doing with the family. Is there a kind of cost-effective way for you to kind of help them take advantage of some discounts? Employee assistance programs we've touched on. Is there a kind of working from home allowance that you can give people? So under HMRC rules, there's £6 a week or £26 a month it kind of works out at. So there might be an option for you to kind of pay that through expenses, or could people look to change their have a look at their own tax code on the HMRC website, and if people are kind of working from home, are they eligible for a kind of working from home allowance? And just on that as well, if people wear a company uniform and have to launder that, then there might be some updates to their tax code they can do there as well, and get that adjusted. So it's probably better in your people's pocket than the HMRC pocket. So just have a look if that's some of the things that you could perhaps look to offer. I suppose it goes without saying is to get payroll right first time. Now, we understand that human error can occur. There can sometimes be errors with processing salaries, and I guess one of the biggest issues for an employer and an employee is if they get paid at the end of the month and there's been an error with their pay and they've been underpaid, having them wait a full month for that to be fixed just isn't right. So, you know, if you do get it wrong, then have a look at, you know, how quickly you can get that resolved for people. It's unreasonable in the current climate to have them waiting a full month for that to correct itself. So, and then obviously if there's frequent payroll errors, let's have a look at the kind of root cause around that. Is that something that you can look to rectify in the future? Income streaming or an advance on pay is something that, you know, we've seen people do. So especially where people are kind of monthly paid, if you've got a system in place where there is a little bit of flexibility for people to get a cash advance before, or a salary advance before payday, so, you know, up to you to determine whether that's something that you can do in your business. But certainly where you've maybe got longer months, where there might be like a 5-week month, you know, is that an opportunity during that, if people are kind of struggling to you know, get by, is there an option for you to give them advance on their salary? So, you know, just certain things to have a look at. Another one to look at as well is where you can perhaps provide a loan for employees. So, you know, obviously better rates than, you know, payday loans and banks, etc. So is there an option there for you to perhaps providing some kind of loan to your people? So, you know, the benefit with that is that there's a potential retention tie-in. You might find that people are a bit more productive, so it's a kind of win-win as well. So I get there's obviously a financial implication there, but, you know, that's certainly some of the things that we've seen clients do recently, and that's been pretty well received. And then just some examples of what other kind of businesses are doing, so things that we've kind of seen firsthand through feedback that we've given or feedback that we've had from clients. So obviously with the increase in cost over the kind of winter months, you know, some businesses might offer free meals or subsidised meals. So if you've got a kind of canteen facility, you know, is there an option for you to look at that being discounted, or can you offer to kind of give free meals for people at work? So whether that's covering things like kind of breakfast, lunch and dinners, etc., will be up to you guys to decide. But that's something that could be pretty well received. So it will certainly help people on their food shopping. And again, the other thing to consider there is if it's food that's of a kind of healthy nature, you know, what you're potentially then doing is actually mitigating the risk for sickness absence. So if people are eating kind of junk food and processed food, for etc., perhaps not the healthiest kind of lifestyle, that might kind of create other problems later on where they maybe need to take time off work. So having a look at a kind of, you know, more proactive, healthy kind of lifestyle and promoting free meals might be something you can look at. Now, there's potential tax implications with offering free meal. It needs to be kind of what's classed as reasonable. It's not something you could offer some employees and not others. So what we'd advise you to do there is just take some tax advice from your accountants on that. But it's definitely something that we've seen people doing. One of the other things we've seen is an area where people can bring things into the workplace. So again, that's just raising awareness and having these kind of conversations. But we've seen people who have maybe got food that's going to go out of date in the next week or so, and what they don't want to do is kind of waste that food. So what they do is they bring that into the workplace. There's an area kind of set aside, and other members of the team can, you know, help themselves to that sort of thing. So it might cover food, it might cover clothing, it might cover unwanted books, unwanted toys, you know, different things like that, where if people are kind of struggling financially to, you know, buy clothing, buy food and you know, get things for Christmas, is that something that you can kind of offer? So it's just pitching at the right level, because, you know, some people might feel embarrassed about taking some of these products. But again, we have seen businesses kind of offering that as a kind of solution, and it has in the main been pretty well received. Again, we've seen people having ideas around kind of batch cooking, so kind of sharing ideas around things that they could be doing to save on their food costs. And we know that some people are still kind of working from home. So we know that some businesses have been, you know, concerned around that in terms of, you know, they might offer a working from home allowance, but also then perhaps offering a, you know, cost-effective eco heating or electric heaters, so that, you know, people are trying to keep their costs down whilst working from home. Where possible, perhaps promote car sharing. So if people are having to, you know, drive to work, could they kind of car share to you know, potentially reduce petrol and diesel costs, etc. So is that something that you can offer? And then obviously things like subsidised purchase travel passes. So if people are using public transport, is there an option through salary to potentially do that as an employee benefit? or is that something you can kind of offer staff? So different things that can help them kind of get to work and obviously reduce their costs a little bit. And then the other kind of final point we've seen other people doing is, I suppose this more applies to people who are working from home. So where they're maybe trying to keep their own energy costs down over the winter, is there a kind of free or a cost-effective kind of co-working space that you can let people kind of work from? So there's quite a few of these places that you'll find online. So again, it's just kind of sharing information around that with your team members. So it's a good opportunity for them to work with other colleagues. Reduces the need for people feeling isolated, but it kind of helps reduce their costs at home as well. So have a look at that and see if that's something that you can perhaps offer. Some employee discount schemes. So there's a lot of kind of different providers out there. We've just kind of taken a snapshot of a few that we know clients have kind of used and have been well received. Caboodle happens to be the one that we use at the HR booth, and we know that a few of our clients have used that as well. So really kind of cost effective system for a business. So if I talk about the Caboodle one and the experience that we've had, we can essentially add all our employees to the Caboodle platform. We send them an invite, and what happens is they add themselves to the system, and then we approve that. So it's really easy to administer. And then what that gives them is access to things like the tech discount scheme that I mentioned. So that could be done as a salary exchange, where they could, perhaps buy something from Currys and do that as a kind of salary exchange. There's pension schemes, and then within the Caboodle platform, there is literally hundreds of retailers out there that people can get a discount on. So you can download an app on your phone. You can get a promo code, you can get a discount code, and when you're buying everyday kind of products, so likes at Asda and Morrison's and Aldi are definitely on Caboodle, so you can get a discount on your shopping. There's cinema is on it, so if you happen to be going to the cinema with your kind of family, friends or family, for example, then what you can do is take advantage of a discount scheme before buying the tickets. There's various restaurants in there. There's travel, so lots of different kind of companies that you can take advantage of. And the good thing is these are things that your staff members will be doing anyway. So if you can offer them a discount on things like that, they remember they're getting that through their employer. So it does help with engagement, retention, and reducing absence. And what you're doing is kind of providing them with a good discount scheme at a time where they're going to need it. There's various other things on there like health and wellbeing. So a lot of the kind of gyms are on there. So a lot of local gyms and some of the national gyms are on it. So there's definite kind of savings to be had there. So that's our experience of Caboodle, but I know that there's other companies that are there. So again, do your research on that. There might be a different scheme or a different company that kind of works for you, but it's not overly expensive. I know that my team have been taking advantage of the discounts in the supermarkets and everyday shopping, and some good savings to be made. And the cost to our business is in the region of I think it's £60 a month for a team of 12. So it's not a huge cost for our business, but the way I look at that is it's not really a cost, that's an investment. So if that's me being able to help my team members save some money over the winter and just generally across the year, then it's the right thing to do. So don't look at it as a cost, look at that as an investment. Other things that you could perhaps do to support people is just review your own kind of business expenses. So look at other things that you're perhaps spending money on. Is there anything you can kind of save there that can be passed back to employees? So if you are doing salary exchange, there's going to be a saving for you as a business. So can that saving be passed back on to your team members on other things? We know as well that some people haven't wanted to do Christmas nights out this year. What they've decided to do is give people vouchers, and another difference between vouchers versus cash is if you do a £50 voucher, the individual gets the £50, whereas if you do that as a £50 bonus through their salary, then that's subject to tax and NI deduction. So so look at whether vouchers are something that's more cost effective. So we know that the businesses this year are preferring to perhaps pay for the Christmas dinner. So that might be a Christmas hamper, Christmas voucher, different things like that. So just have a look at your overall kind of corporate spend, and is that things that you need to do? So that might be kind of hospitality, entertainment, different things like that. So is that the right thing to be doing in the current climate? only you can kind of make a decision on what's right for your business, and then look to see if any of these savings can be passed on to team members. And as I say, just think about the actions and perceptions and how things could be perceived. So if you're not doing anything, if you're not given, doing a peer review, anything like that at all, but the perceptions that you're spending lots of money in kind of corporate hospitality and different things, then that's not going to be really well received by your team members. And what could happen there is that you could potentially lose good kind of quality people. So just something to be aware of. And then obviously there's things that you could be looking at as around debt support. So there's some kind of national charities out there that you can kind of signpost people to that I mentioned. So if you don't have an employee assistance program in place, then there's a couple of kind of charities that you can signpost people to. So we'll put the numbers and the link for this moving forward. So obviously not an opportunity for questions at this stage. We did obviously ask questions or give an opportunity for questions during the seminar. If people do have questions, you can reach out. Happy to kind of take that. You can reach out to us through the website or contact telephone number there, or you can email us at info@thehrbooth.co.uk. As I say, we're helping a lot of businesses at the moment with the kind of cost of living crisis. You don't necessarily need to be a client of the HR Booth to come to us for support on any particular HR matter. We're happy to work with businesses on a project basis as well. So if there's anything in this podcast webinar that's stoked your interest and you want to find out more, reach out to us and we'll see if we can help. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hopefully that's given you a good indication in terms of what some other businesses are doing to help navigate employees through the cost of living crisis.